Have you ever wondered what data Amazon keeps on you? Well, I did too. And using a little known backdoor, using the California Consumer Privacy Act, I was able to uncover it all. The mother lode, all of the data points that Amazon keeps on its customers using my own account. What did I find? Well, honestly, it's pretty shocking. Over 80 zip folders worth of data, thousands upon thousands of data points, and a footprint on every Amazon service that I've used over the last 5 years. And if you're an Amazon FBA seller, this data is a blueprint for how Amazon tracks and uses consumer data to rank products and identify which products to show in organic search. This is going to be a doozy. This is the treasure trove of Amazon data. Here we go. I've built and led multiple seven-figure Amazon brands. Now, I'm setting out to share how I did it, with radically transparent and detailed weekly videos. Join the journey with me and break free. Welcome to Heist. Hey guys, welcome to Heist. My name is Adam. This channel is dedicated to everything Amazon, more specifically everything Amazon FBA for private label sellers. And so over the last couple months, I've been really interested in diving in and better understanding the Amazon algorithm, specifically as an Amazon seller, to better position my products and my brands for ranking on Amazon. Through this journey, I've discovered a way to access the data that Amazon keeps on each and every one of its registered users. This could be somebody with a Prime or shopping account. This could be Prime Video. This could be Amazon Fresh. Any of the assets that Amazon has, you can track your data footprint. How can you do this? Well, in this video, I'm going to dive into exactly how I did it, what I learned, what you can know as a consumer to better understand the data that Amazon keeps on you, and if you're an Amazon seller, how you can harness this to better understand how Amazon thinks, how Amazon ranks products, and how they orchestrate their algorithm around the data sets that they keep. Let's dive into my computer. Okay guys, so the first thing that I did to uncover this data that Amazon had on all of my various Amazon accounts was to come to the security and privacy section on their website. If you just type in Amazon data or Amazon My Privacy, you can find your way to this link. And what it's going to do is break down exactly how they use the data, how they collect it, whether it's secure or not, all the typical stuff you'd find from any major corporation you're going to find in here. It also has a section here which is how do I access and manage my data on Amazon. And what this section tries to do is to say, hey, look, everything's totally fine. You can find most of what you're looking for your Amazon account if you actually log in and you go into your order history and all those different elements of the interface that you have within your Amazon account. So it's going to break that all down here. Now at the very bottom, there's a couple interesting nuggets, and this is really what you're going to want to hone in on if you want to actually draw this data out on your own account and see what Amazon collects on you. First, it references the California Consumer Privacy Act, very similar to the GDPR, which is a legislation in Europe that requires that companies make available data whenever consumers request it. That's the California Consumer Privacy Act. You can also request that they delete the data that they have on you and that they don't store it. So there's actually a vehicle to do that as well. But if you click on this How Do I Request My Data button, it's going to kick you over to another window. And then it goes into how you go about requesting it. I'm going to go ahead and click on that link there. Then that kicks you over to this final window, and then it asks you what category of data you want. And in my case, I just went down and I requested all of your data. I got an email, I want to say 2-3 weeks later. I think they commit to giving you your data within 30 days. In my case, it was a couple weeks later. It looked a little bit like this. I'll throw it up on the screen with the email. You click on that link. You have a token that's required to, for additional data security. And then what it's going to do is it's going to kick you over to this treasure trove of data. This is 80 folders or zip folders of data. Within each of these, there may be 2 or 3 folders with the data in different files. I've painstakingly gone through every single one of these so we can kind of find out what's relevant, but you can just get a bit of an idea here. So it shows everything that Alexa keeps, Amazon Drive, Amazon Music, my wish list, my Smile, my app engagement, anything I've done on the app store, Audible, device usage, the Prime Video, stuff that I've looked at, that I've added, anything on Fire TV, anything on Kindle, all my payment information that I like to use, any of my physical store visits. So I would imagine if you shop at Whole Foods and use your Amazon account or a Whole Foods account to access your information and deals at Whole Foods, you're likely going to see that kind of pulled into that folder as well. All of my returns, my profile, gift certificates I've used, my retail order history, promotions I've taken advantage of. It's just insane the amount of information and folders and folders and folders of data that they have. The ones that I honed in on specifically to better understand as a consumer how they track my data when I'm shopping on Amazon, and then as an Amazon sellers, how I can use that information to better understand how the algorithm works, is the search data zip folder. So that was definitely the most fruitful, but I'll go into a couple of the other ones that I found were interesting. So I've imported all this data. I've scrubbed out all the personal information for understandable reasons here and kind of cleaned things up a little bit. So this isn't my exact output, but it gives you a darn good idea of exactly what it looked like. And then I've added different sheets here within Google Sheets just to do it in one fell swoop. But each one of these was a separate document. It was within a different zip folder, and maybe even within a different folder of the zip folder. So it definitely took a little bit of digging to find this stuff. But what the first interesting data point when you look at the engagement data from the search data folder is it's going to tag your first search date and time. This is really important for anybody that uses links. There's timestamps on every single search query that happens with Amazon at the account level. So that's why the last couple of years, it's really not been a good idea to manually try to artificially mess with URLs within Amazon for ranking. Shows the department, it shows what the variant of search, whether it was a browser, whether it was a mobile use, etc. Same thing with application. Device model is really interesting. So I think this is really, there's a couple points within this data that are interesting as an Amazon seller. But if you've ever had a friend or a family member or a coworker or something like that leave a review on your account, the reason that's a no-no is there's a data footprint where if they've used the same device as you, they're going to triangulate that to your Amazon account that you've used and anybody that's used that device. So that's one way that they can kind of snag you if you're using friends and families for reviews, which I think is a good thing for them to track that. Here's what was really interesting. They've got 3 different variables on how they look at search type. One is a keyword that somebody's typed in. So they've come through the search query by actually typing in a word. One is visual. So they've actually seen something and clicked on it. And then the third is browse. So they've got 3 different tags here. Most of these are keyword searches, but you'll see here I've got a BR for browse. So that's another data point that they use. And then I can't remember if I had another one on mine. And then ED I think is the visual one. So it's pretty interesting there. It's got a session ID, so every single time you log in and enter a shopping adventure for yourself, it's going to tag that. It's got a query ID on what you actually typed in. So each individual thing that you type has its own tag and data point. Here's what's super interesting. Is this from an external link? So if this customer's coming in from a source outside of Amazon, it's going to say yes, no. And then if they have, it's actually going to show the link or the origin point from where that customer originated from. So not only does it know what you've done on Amazon, what you've searched for, what you've clicked on, and timestamped and tracked all that stuff, it's also going to know where you came from before you were at the Amazon asset if you're using an external link. So I thought that was super interesting. First search query string. So because you might do multiple searches, so I actually left this one in here so you can see it was golf balls. If I would have typed in golf balls first and then golf balls 12 pack, each individual search is going to have its own query string, and Amazon's going to know how many searches it took me and how many keywords I typed in before I ultimately found the product that I added to cart and bought. So it's not only tracking your initial behavior on what you actually transacted on, it's going to look at your entire history and the journey that you went through, again, to optimize search and to understand what normal behavior looks like. So coming along here, customer IP, like I said, in terms of the data fingerprint, if you've ever used an IP address that somebody else has bought your product on and left a review, it's highly likely your account's going to get tagged for review manipulation. So if you've used the same Wi-Fi at your parents' house that's 3,000 miles away, it's going to know that. If you've used it as a coworker and then you said, hey, I've got this new product on Amazon, go buy it and leave a review for me, Amazon's going to know that. Again, using IP tracking, which it keeps. And I've got every IP address that I've accessed since 2015 is located within this data. It's got keywords. So again, I left this first one in here so you can see, but what keyword was typed in. In this case, it was golf balls 12 pack. Kind of scrolling on here to kind of look at other things. Here's what was super, super interesting to me. It knows what you added to cart. So it says here the first added item. And if you purchased something, what was the first item you purchased? It shows how many items you clicked on before you bought it. Super important. Shows how many of items were added to cart. And then it shows the total number of items ordered. So when you talk about why rebates have not worked the last 6 months, and why Amazon's getting smart, rightfully so, at scrubbing out people using nefarious tactics for launching, this is one of the main reasons that they're doing it and identifying low quality buyers. If you've bought historically for years and years and years using pretty normal buying behavior, and then all of a sudden you start buying all these products where you search it, you find the first item immediately, you add it to cart and buy it, and you see this repeated behavior of rebate shoppers and low quality buyers doing this continuously on a number of products, Amazon's going to know at the account level who's shopping in a unnatural way, and it's going to flag those customers. And over time, especially looking at review behavior, it's going to shut those accounts down. So if you're wondering why rebate buyers and rebates and ManyChat campaigns and 100% discounts haven't been working, this is a likely culprit because Amazon has a really clean data idea on what normal shopping behavior looks like. On the flip side of that, if you leverage and understand how it's tracking these data points, and you can replicate that and you can integrate that into your launch strategy, it has massive, massive ranking impacts that can benefit your indexing and ultimately how you get shown on the first page of Amazon results. So moving on here, it says, hey, did they search? When they searched, did they click on anything? So if they didn't click on anything, they're going to have a pretty good idea whether or not that keyword worked or not. Did they add any item? Did they purchase any item? Did they make refinements to their shopping? It's got a number here if they did that. How many times did they need to refine their shopping to find what they ultimately looked for? So I thought that was quite interesting. There's browse node data on here. First search domain is an interesting one. So this is where if you're using an external link or a customer shopping via an external link, it's going to show up here. I didn't have it in my data, but I had another person I know run a similar analysis, and there was a Pixelfy link that showed up in this exact column. So word to the wise, if you're using Pixelfy or some of these other link forwarding tools that many sellers are now using, and I even had recommended for a long period of time, it's going to show up on here. Does that negatively impact your account, your ranking? Does it raise red flags within Amazon? I don't know, but I think it's pretty interesting to understand that they will know and they at least have a data footprint that shows when these secondary link services are used. So personally, I think it's probably a bad idea to leverage those moving forward. Whether or not it's being harnessed at this point, I think it could be at some point in the future. But just be aware if you're using those, it is going to show up. Amazon does know if you're using it. The other thing I thought was interesting is first search from an external ad. So they're clearly tracking whether it came from an ad externally. Not only did it come from an external link, but did it come from an external ad? I've started to use Google ads, YouTube ads, Pinterest ads with a lot of my launch strategy, and it's having, I believe, a massive positive impact on ranking. And this would indicate how Amazon knows that. So not only does it know if it's coming from Pinterest, it knows if it's coming from an ad. Not only does it know if it's coming from Google, it knows whether it's coming from a Google product search ad. This is, I think, a powerful reason why you should absolutely be using external sources for advertising, especially at launch. If you haven't subscribed yet, I suggest you do. In future videos in the months ahead, I'm going to dive into each one of these traffic sources, how you can set up your ads, and how you can drive external traffic in legitimate ways, especially at launch, to rank your products on Amazon. So that's it. This is one of the major treasure troves, but if you kind of go down here, it's pretty insane. And I've got data, like I said, going back to 2015 on here. If you kind of just look at the rows and rows and rows and rows and rows and rows of data, between my wife and I, which we use the same account for our Amazon shopping, it looks like we have done 1,440 Amazon shopping queries over the last 5 years. So pretty insane stuff. Let's move on to some other data that I thought was pretty interesting. This is super cool, and it goes into understanding shopping behavior, what's unnatural potentially and what is natural to Amazon if you're thinking about using these 100% launches that really aren't working anymore, is the product metrics, also coming from that search data folder. What it shows here is the number of items clicked, as well as the ASIN that was clicked, and then it says what items were added to cart and what items were borrowed. So if you clicked on multiple ASINs, so in this particular search query, there was 3 ASINs that were clicked on. I didn't end up buying anything on that, but Amazon knows how many ASINs did you click on, look at, before you ultimately added and bought an end product. So again, going back to low quality buyers and how I suspect Amazon is tagging these customers, again, rightfully so, is they're probably all one-click items, and they probably all immediately bought right off the bat. Super unnatural. Amazon knows this. If you go down and scroll down the 900 or so products I've purchased, I think is how many rows of data this is, you're going to see a spattering of sometimes it was 1, sometimes it was 2, sometimes it was 4, sometimes it was 3, sometimes I added to cart, sometimes I didn't. And it looks like a very natural probability of what could happen. And Amazon is clearly harnessing this data, understands it, and is looking at it. Now, as a seller on Amazon, again, going back to this, hey, if you're using friends, family, acquaintances to leave reviews, how in the world would Amazon know this? Are they buying data from Facebook? How are they doing this? There's all kinds of conspiracy theories out there. I suspect how they're doing it, looking at the seller central data, is it's looking at the requester IP. Remember when I came back over here, there's an IP item on this data as well. I think if that IP address shows up in both the seller central data as well as the shopping data, Amazon's going to know, hey, somebody associated with the seller central account at this IP address has also bought and reviewed this product. Flag this as a potential violation to our review policies. So that was one of the interesting elements I found within the seller central data. And then finally, the order data. So obviously it's going to track every single order you've ever made, what the date was, what the price was, what ASIN it was, whether it was new, used, etc., what credit card you ended up using, all kinds of stuff that will leave a footprint at the individual consumer level on what is shopped for. So that's it, guys. I think it's quick, nitty gritty, but I found it completely fascinating what Amazon tracks across all of their different services. Again, 80 plus zip folders of data with thousands upon thousands of data points. And what does it mean for you as a consumer, and more important, you as an Amazon seller? Well, first of all, it's no secret they're sophisticated. I wasn't surprised to see the level of data that they had, but I think you can start to put 2 and 2 together. If you were a computer scientist, if you're writing algorithms for Amazon, if you're thinking about your A9 algorithm or your A10 upcoming algorithm, how can I use all these data footprints to better put products in front of customers at the right moment in time for the right search terms? This leaves a bit of a blueprint on how they're doing that. They're looking at when they shop for something, how many times they shop for something, what was the time that they shop for, what search terms did they use, did they find it right away or did they need multiple search terms, how many products did they click on, how many products did they add to cart, did they buy, did they not buy. All of these elements are starting to form a picture on how Amazon's using this data. And what was critically important, probably one of the most important nuggets for me, which is reinforcing a new launch strategy, which I've started to deploy, which is bombarding my ASINs at launch specifically with external traffic. And more importantly, using natural external ads from Google, YouTube, Facebook, and Pinterest, which Amazon knows when they're coming from an external site. They know what the site is, and they know whether or not that site was an ad. And ultimately, if those customers transact and purchase and buy, they're going to love that because you're creating new customers, or you're bringing customers from outside of Amazon shopping platform. You're injecting them into Amazon product purchases, which they get a cut of. And I'm sure Amazon being Amazon and wanting to be a smart business, they're going to serve up your product in a more favorable organic position as a result. That's it for this week, guys. I hope you found this fascinating as I did. And if you've got any questions, drop them down. I can answer any additional data questions that I uncovered from this if you have any. If you have not subscribed yet and are enjoying the content I'm throwing out there, 100% free, by the way, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, join the Heist community. We're taking this thing over. We're going to do deep dive Amazon content that you're not going to see anywhere else, and we're going to do it for free. Thanks for being here, guys. Cheers.